The jurisdictional cascade, rights in the age of backsliding. The counter-majoritarian difficulty. Imagine a society where 51% of the population votes to strip bodily autonomy, medical privacy, or ballot access away from the other 49%. In a pure democracy, the majority wins. This is a paradox baked into our political system, known by legal scholars as the counter-majoritarian difficulty. A democracy relies on majority rule, but basic human rights should never be subject to a popular vote. Rights as trumps and the federal judiciary. To solve this, Ronald Dworkin argued that rights act as trumps that override the collective's policy goals. But in the American system, this defensive ring relies entirely on an independent federal judiciary, unelected judges designed to enforce liberties against a populist majority. The entire architecture of American civil rights rests on one assumption: that those outer jurisdictional layers remain insulated from partisan capture. The failure of the federal layer. That assumption began to break down with a sustained, systematic erosion of voting access. Decisions like Shelby County gutted the Voting Rights Act. By sanctioning partisan gerrymandering and voter suppression, politicians insulate themselves from accountability, allowing them to stack the courts with highly partisan appointees without facing the voters. The result was a cascading rollback of federal civil rights enforcement. A captured court dismantled the protections established by Roe v. Wade, devolving standards of decency and eliminating rights previously deemed fundamental. The institution designed to protect the minority had aligned itself with the factions seeking to restrict those rights. The federal layer had failed. When the national constitution no longer acts as a shield, vulnerable populations have to retreat inward, seeking legal shelter in smaller, localized jurisdictions. The defensive line moved from Washington, D.C. to individual state houses. State governments and shield laws. Progressive state governments are stepping in to act as the primary defenders of human rights. They draw on a legal doctrine called parens patriae. This recognizes a state's sovereign interest in protecting the physical and economic well-being of the people living within its borders. Using this authority, states are enacting shield laws. These statutes explicitly prohibit local law enforcement from cooperating with out-of-state investigations, preventing the extradition of reproductive and gender-affirming healthcare providers to hostile sister states. At the same time, citizens are bypassing hostile legislatures entirely. Through direct democracy and local ballot initiatives, voters are aggressively rewriting state constitutions to enshrine bodily autonomy directly into local law. The state has become a powerful defensive wall, but that wall only protects the people privileged or lucky enough to live on the correct side of the border. The municipal sanctuary model. So, where do you go when the majority in your own state is actively hostile to your existence? You retreat one layer deeper to the municipality. Local city governments are now deliberately disrupting both state and federal enforcement to protect their residents. Cities are adapting the exact playbook used by the immigration sanctuary movement. By passing ordinances that forbid police and civil servants from collecting or sharing data, they create legal blind spots to protect abortion access and gender identity information. Enforcing constitutional rights has been pushed down to the smallest units of government. But a city isn't a sovereign nation. Local ordinances cannot permanently block a hostile state or federal agency. A municipality's walls can always be breached by state preemption laws. As institutional protection shrinks inward, fundamental liberties devolve into a geographic lottery. The limits of civil rights law. This brings us to a radical critique from legal scholar Dean Spade. He suggests that the justice system isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to, managing and extracting from targeted populations. Spade argues that mainstream civil rights laws rarely alter the material conditions of poverty, borders, or policing. Instead, they serve to reframe the very government whose policies endanger marginalized groups as their official protector. For the disabled, the poor, the undocumented, and trans communities, top-down legal recognition is rarely enough to guarantee actual survival in a crisis. Mutual aid as the final bulwark. When every official layer of government fails or turns hostile, you reach the absolute center of the jurisdictional model. The final bulwark is the community itself. This is mutual aid. It is not nonprofit charity or philanthropy. It is the unglamorous, horizontal practice of direct support outside of official institutions, delivering groceries to an elderly neighbor, coordinating care, and raising bail. This form of direct community solidarity is the universal human response to systemic collapse. We see it in neighborhood networks during a pandemic, and we see it in massive leaderless global resistance movements holding the line against state apathy. Rights as a nested system. A human right is not a magical decree granted by a court. It is a nested system of jurisdictions. And when the official layers of a democracy backslide, those rights are kept alive solely by the relentless solidarity of the people inside the center. Thank you for watching. Remember, you are worth the time it takes to slow down, listen within, and care for yourself. If you found this helpful, please subscribe for more mindful insights. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself.